Unit 6, Ecosystems. What is an ecosystem? An ecosystem is all the living things that live in a habitat and their relationships among each other. Examples of ecosystems include savannas and forests. What is a habitat? A habitat is a place where a living thing lives. For example, seahorses live in salt water, trout live in fresh water, and penguins live in very cold areas with icy water. Habitats. Every habitat has a characteristic temperature, is usually hot, cold, or average, has a type of water, so a habitat could be fresh water or seawater, have different types of terrain or land, so it can either have lots of mountains or the land is very flat. It can have different amounts of sunlight. For example, some habitats may have a lot of sunlight, like deserts, and some habitats may be very dark, like some forests. And every habitat has a characteristic type of air. So remember the elements of a habitat: the temperature, the type of water, the type of terrain, so it could be very mountainous like this or very flat, the amount of sunlight, so it's very bright here, there's lots of sunlight here, and it's very dark here, and type of air. What is a community? Many living things live in one habitat. All these living things need to live in similar conditions. For example, polar bears and penguins need to live in cold conditions. A community is a group of living things that live together in the same habitat. Relationships. Because living things of an ecosystem share their habitat, they depend on each other to survive. Wolves hunt in packs, which is small groups, and zebras live in herds, which is large groups, to protect themselves from lions. Types of ecosystem. There are two main types of ecosystem: the terrestrial ecosystems and aquatic ecosystems. Terrestrial ecosystems. The most important element of terrestrial ecosystems is their terrain, which is the type of land. And these ecosystems also have different temperatures, precipitation, which is the amount of rain, relief, and altitudes. Examples of terrestrial ecosystems include deserts, Mediterranean forests, jungles, and the poles. Deserts. Characteristics of deserts are that they have extreme temperatures, so they are very hot during the day and very cold at night. They have very little precipitation or rain, and the animals and plants that live here are adapted to living with little water, like cactus or camels. Mediterranean forests. So the characteristics include that they have moderate temperatures, so it is not too hot and it is not too cold. They have little precipitation or rain in the summer. And plants like oak trees and animals like wild boar live here. Jungles. Their characteristics include that they have very warm temperatures and lots of precipitation or rain almost all year, and they have a wide variety of flora and fauna. Animals like pumas, monkeys, and parrots live here. The poles. So the poles have very low temperatures all year, and it snows. And only plants and animals that can resist or can live in the cold live here. For example, polar bears or seals. Aquatic ecosystems. Aquatic ecosystems can be divided into two groups: freshwater ecosystems, such as lakes, lagoons, ponds, and rivers, and marine ecosystems, which is seas and oceans. Aquatic ecosystems. The most important element of aquatic ecosystems is the water. The water can be freshwater or saltwater. Aquatic ecosystems can also have different depths, so they can be deep or shallow. Currents. Rivers can be fast flowing or slow flowing. Wave sizes. They can have big waves or small waves. And the amounts of transparency, so the water can be clear or unclear. Living things which can be found in freshwater ecosystems include carp, frogs, dragonflies. Types of plant include reeds and water lilies. And living things which can be found in marine ecosystems include killer whales, sharks, crabs, and coral. Types of relationships. The living things of an ecosystem interact with each other because they depend on one another to live. There are two types of relationship. Relationships among the same species and relationships among different species. Relationships among the same species. Some animals live in groups, and they live in groups so that they can protect themselves, reproduce, and it is easier to hunt in groups. Relationships among different species. Food relationships. Plants are food for herbivores, and herbivores are food for carnivores. And plant reproduction. Some insects, like bees, help in the process of plant reproduction by transporting grains of pollen from flower to flower.